Hi there, I'm Melissa Welsh from Welsh Design Studio, and this video is all about helping you understand how to choose the best paint colors for your home. There are three main mistakes people make when choosing paint colors. The first is not having a good understanding of undertones. The second is not understanding how their lighting conditions will affect the paint colors and the way they look in their homes. And the third is that they don't test the paint colors in their homes before committing to one. This video is the third of a three-part series, and the focus of this video is helping you understand how to test and sample paint colors in your homes so you can choose the right one for your space. This week, we're talking about the third biggest mistake, which is not testing the paint out on your walls and in your home before you paint. And you'd be amazed how many people do this. They see a great paint color at their friend's house, they see a great paint color on the store, and they just go right into painting. They don't test it out in their homes. And it's a huge mistake. It really is. It's like, okay, so for example, suppose you go shopping online and you see a fabulous pair of jeans and it looks great, right? The color is great, it looks amazing on the model. You're totally hooked, you're gonna buy those jeans. So you go buy the jeans, you bring them home, and you wouldn't like rip the tags off and just throw them on your body, right? Like you would try them on first, make sure they fit, make sure you look fabulous. And if you decide to keep them, then you would rip the tags off, right? So paint color is kind of the same way. Like you can't just buy the paint, slap it up on your walls and hope it's gonna work out. You need to try it on first. If you don't try it on, you're really putting yourself at risk. Let's talk about like in order to choose a great paint color for your home. We talked about undertones, we talked about lighting. Great, you went through that whole process. Now you've got paint colors in mind. You cannot skip this step. You cannot skip the step of trying it on your walls first. Even if you're working, I'm gonna go as far as, even if you are working with a paint color consultant who has recommended a paint color to you, you should not paint that color on your walls until you test it out first. And if you're working with somebody who has not been to your house, not sampled the paint in your home, and is telling you to paint a color on your home, on your walls, then don't do it. Don't work with them, because as a designer, I will tell you, lots of people ask me for paint color recommendations. Like every day I get comments about asking for specific recommendations, and I'm happy to give them recommendations of colors to try. Ones that I think will look great in their house, but I would never tell them to go paint that on their walls without trying it out first, because everyone's home lighting conditions are different, right? It's like the pair of jeans, like our bodies are all different, right? So everyone's lighting conditions, everyone's home are different, and you have to try the paint on your walls before you commit to it. You just do. It's just, you cannot skip that step. So let's talk about how you should test out paint colors. And I'm gonna recommend like two approaches today. One is, I'm not a fan of painting it directly on your walls, I gotta say. You can go to the paint stores, you can get a sample size. The sample sizes are way bigger than you need. Sherwin-Williams gives you like, I think a whole quart. I mean, it's big, like you don't even need that much. So yes, you pay less for the sample paint, but there's a reason, let me explain. The sample paint is not the same quality paint as their normal paint. So don't be fooled into thinking, oh, I just need a little bit of their paint, I'm gonna use this on this one wall. Sample paint sucks, like the quality is sucky. It's not meant to last the duration. So like in a year or two, it could completely change color and look hideous on you. Anyway, if you wanna go get the samples of their paint, great, paint it on your walls, you can do that. But when you paint a paint color directly on top of another paint color, that paint color that's already on your walls will affect the paint color, the new paint color, the look of it. There's a word for it. So let's say you paint like a blob of gray on your beige wall, like in the middle of it, that beige color will affect the look of the gray. So if you're gonna paint it on your walls, here's what I recommend. Paint it right next to like your white trim, and paint a big enough sample that you can really see what that paint color is going to look like. I don't love painting it on my walls directly, and here's why. Because it looks ugly, right? You have to paint like a bunch of strips, and you should also paint it in a couple different areas of the room. So then you end up for a few weeks, you know, or a day or two, however long it takes you to decide, with these ugly paint color strips on your wall. My preferred method is to get some foam board from like Staples or Target or whatever, some nice thick foam board, and paint my samples on that. And I even like to keep some white edges around the samples. So I paint some big old samples and then I tape it up on the wall. And the reason I like to do that, first, I like to keep the white around it because I like to see the actual color compared to white. If I put that color and it's like right next to my beige wall or whatever color you have, it does affect the way that color looks. So use your foam board, put it on. The other reason I like foam board is because it's nice and stiff. If you paint like your paint sample on some paper, it's going to curl up and, you know, it's practically worthless. So foam board's the way to go. Now there is another method. It's called Sampleize. I'll put a link to it in the comments, but this company sells 12 by 12 vinyl sheets of the paint sample, and you can just stick it up on your wall. You can buy a sample, and it's pretty reasonable for one of these 12 by 12 sheets. It's a nice big size. You can move it around. You can fold it around corners. Like, it's awesome. So that's really what I would recommend, is this Sampleize company. If you want some paint samples, you go to their site, you tell them what color you want, and they'll mail you out these like cool 12 by 12 sheets that you can just stick on your wall. They're easily removable. That's what I would recommend, and I'll put a link, like I said, down in the comments for you. If you don't want to go that route, then do the paint samples like on foam board. Stick that foam board up, you know, on your wall. So once you have your sample, let me go into what next. Put it in a couple different areas in your room, because your room is going to get different lighting, you know, different angles of your room. So, you know, put it in one area that maybe gets more sun, put it in another area that is a little more shaded in that room. And that's important, because you're gonna see the paint color will look a little different in those different areas. So make sure you take your samples and put them in different areas of the room. The second thing you need to do is make sure you look at it in both daylight and at night, because nighttime it will look different. So get your samples, put them up, put them around your room, move them around. This is why for me it could take like a 2-week process. Move them to different areas of your house or that room, and make sure that you take note of which ones are like, oh, that one looks really good, and it's looked good in daytime, in nighttime, in, you know, bright light and in shadow. Like, that one's looking pretty good, you know. And maybe you'll have one that just stands out right away as the perfect color. I mean, lucky you. You might have one or two that you're trying to decide between, and that's actually great information too, because that one or two colors can kind of tell you, oh, I actually like both, and this one's a little dark and this one's a little green. Like, I'd really love something right in between. And then you can search for that color. You can also request that the paint stores lighten your paint colors. So if you find what seems like a great paint color and you're like, oh my gosh, if it was just slightly lighter, it'd be perfect, ask them to make a sample for you that's 25% lighter or 50% lighter, whatever it may be. Make sure you sample it again on your walls, because you need to do that. That's very important. If you take nothing else away from today's discussion, sample, sample, sample. It's so important. Okay, so we talked about how to test the paint colors, what to look for. Finally, like, you narrow it down, you find your perfect paint color. That's when you know. And then you can feel confident knowing that's the right paint color. Your search is over, boom, hire the painters, do it yourself, whatever you want to do. That's the right paint color for you. Choosing paint colors can be frustrating. Like, I literally spent an entire year of my life trying to find a gray paint color. You know, this was several years ago, but it truly took me a year. I mean, it was ridiculous. Don't spend a year looking for your paint. I have created a resource about choosing paint colors. It's a little printout. I'm gonna put a link in the comments, and it's just a little resource I created. It's how to choose paint colors. There's like 5 steps on here of how you should choose paint colors, so that you'll never forget. So if you want to download this handy little resource, I will put a link in the comments. You can download it, enjoy it. And there you go. So now we've finished up like those 3 most common mistakes people make. which is not understanding undertones, not understanding lighting conditions, and finally not testing the paint color out on their walls first. So now you are armed with like all the information you need to go shopping for paint colors, paint your house. You're gonna be able to find a fabulous color. If you learn nothing else, make sure you know that I will not be okay unless you test your paint colors out on your walls. It's so important. It's just, you can't skip that step. You just can't.